Thank you for joining us on Together at GRCC. This is the third episode in a 4-part series with President Rogalski. Welcome back to the Piazza.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here. I always love coming into the spaces. And now we're here for the second time, and it's always set up very differently. And I know that that's a lot of work that's happening behind the scenes, and facilities is in and out all the time, changing our rooms and making them appropriate. So I'm grateful for the work that they do. And yeah, it's always a little bit surprising, but still always beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing how much work gets done so quickly.
You don't even know it happens, exactly. And that's one of the things that I'm really cognizant of as the president, that there are things that happen all the time. I won't always know what's happening. I most likely won't know, but I still am grateful that I can come into a space and know that it's the space that we need for whatever's happening at that time.
As you move from listening into action, how will you decide what rises to the top, and how will you know it's working?
This is a great time for me because I've had a lot of time to process, to meet with teams across the college. I'm starting to meet with community outside of the college. And while it has been a short time, it still feels like, because of the onboarding, that I've had a lot more ability to gather information at a fast pace. And it's really helped to promote and accelerate my learning of GRCC. And so when I think about taking what I've learned and now putting it into action, there's a process that I'm using. I'm listening. I'm taking a lot of notes, both on paper, mental notes, in all of my meetings internally. I'm sharing that back with a lot of people so that I can hear, can really listen again. So it's like, okay, this is what I've heard. Now I share it back with executive leadership. I share it back with cabinet. I share it back with team members. And then I rehear, either affirming what I've learned or, well, that doesn't sound right to me. And so then I go back and I try to learn more. So it's really a 2-step process in understanding to make sure that I've heard what I think I've heard, and then taking what I know as I listen externally. And so, for instance, this morning I met with Guillermo from the Hispanic Chamber. He's the president of the Hispanic Chamber, and he's talking about the important work that we need to do together to support the pipeline of students coming from high school into GRCC, focused on giving people access, but access to how do we get people ready how do we get high schoolers and our high schoolers and students of color feeling strong and confident in the STEM fields. And so these are things that I've heard internally are important, and that we want to make sure that we have a strong pipeline of students, that we're working with our Grand Rapids public schools to develop those pipelines. I also know that STEM careers lead to high wage jobs. And now I have a community partner saying that this is their priority. And so bringing that all together and saying, okay, now where does GRCC come in? And where can we help to support and use the partnerships that we have internally and externally to make things happen? So that's really the way that I'm thinking about action. It's not just based on one conversation. It's not based on one piece of data. It's taking all of those points, bringing them together, and then deciding where GRCC can have the most impact for our communities and our students.
Yeah. So it sounds like a recursive process with like bridge building.
Yeah.
Like you're going through the different steps and learning about what's happening, but also double checking and then bringing people together. Sounds like a huge part of it.
It's really important. And I realized that recently I had heard something in a meeting. I took it to be truth, right? It was the person who was sharing it with me. They were passionate. They were a little upset. And I was like, yeah, I agree. And that shouldn't happen. And then I started talking about it, and people were like, well, it's not really, when you think about it this way, and these are the things that have happened in the past. And then I had to reset how I was thinking about it. And so I'm, well, on that topic, I did get passionate and excited. I have to remember that there's a lot of checking that needs to go into what I feel like I know in such a short amount of time. And a big part of that is understanding the data for me. So I want to know the stories and I want to understand the experiences, but I also want to validate that with what does our data say and what is the story that our data is telling us. That is a big part of how I will move forward in making decisions. And recently I met with our Achieving the Dream coach. And so that experience in looking at our data holistically about what community vibrancy looks like for the college and for our communities, that will also really help to inform where we're headed next.
When shared governance is working at its best, what does it feel like in practice for faculty, staff, and students?
Shared governance, there's a lot of important ways to tell if it's working and if it's working well. But when it's working best, it looks like a very inclusive process. It feels like people's voices are heard, that people have the opportunity to not only learn about what policy changes are coming, how the college is organizing, what's happening in curriculum development, in really anything that comes through policy governance. It's that people learn about it, but then also can give feedback and input into how to make it better. And so that shared governance, the idea of having diverse perspectives from faculty, staff, and students is what makes us stronger. And when it works well, you're hearing voices, they're getting access to information, and you're making better decisions because more people are at the table.
As you look at improvements, how will you protect what's already working well while still moving the college forward?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things I have thought about a lot is coming in and recognizing where do we have these strengths as an institution and how do you make sure that you keep them? And I don't know that there's one answer. How do you make sure something stays? Well, you have a focus on it intentionally. You have resources towards it. So whether those are budget resources, human resources, I think you have to talk about it. And so those are some of the things that if there's a specific thing that you want to make sure continues, you have to resource it and you have to be intentional. When I think about GRCC in a kind of like the macro picture of what has stood out to me so far that needs to stay, it's absolutely the individual and collective pride in who we are as GRCC, and that we are seen internally by our employees and externally by our communities as very important. So how do we continue to be seen as a very important place for our communities? Well, we have to make sure that the students who want to come here can come here, that we're creating really strong access points for students, whether they're coming right out of high school or whether they're returning to get a new skill for a new career, whether they're currently working and want to have a promotion. We need to make sure that we have access. We need to make sure that our students finish and that they get the credential that they're looking to get when they come here, so that there is this feeling of, I'm able to come to GRCC and then I'm able to succeed at GRCC. And then we need to make sure that whatever they're earning here while they're at GRCC, students, adults, young students coming out of high school, if they're wanting to transfer, if they're wanting to go into the workplace, that those credentials are valuable, that they take them and they go on to transfer and get a bachelor's degree, that they go on to get a career, and not just a job, but a career in their field that they studied, and that they're making enough money to support their families. So these are the types of things that really will continue to keep us looking to our own employees and to our communities as the institution that's making a difference in the community, which is why I think right now we are seen as such a strong organization, because we do make a difference and we need to continue to make that difference.
Looking ahead, what are the key focus areas that you think will shape GRCC's next chapter?
I think I answered my question just now, but I'll talk a little bit more about. I get excited.
See, I can tell you're a good student because you're working ahead.
You're like, what's the vision going forward? One thing that I haven't talked a lot about yet, but it's a priority for me, is that we're a good employer. It's really important that all of our staff, our faculty, our staff, our leaders, everybody that works here, no matter what department you're in, that you feel cared for as an employee, that you feel like you belong here at this college, at this institution, that you have a voice, that you're a part of something bigger. And so, there's a term, and I don't know if it's an HR term, but, being an employer of choice. I want our institution to be known as a place where people want to work. I feel like that's already the case when I think about how many people have worked here for so many years and what our retention rate of employers are. So we have a low turnover rate from what I can tell from early data that I've looked at, which means that people like to be here. But I want to continue to focus on what's going to help make sure that our employees know that we care about them and that we care about the work that they're doing and how important that work is. There's some things that I've noticed recently that we're doing, and it's not because I've made the decision to do them. It's because the college has made the decision. But one of them is the TriShare childcare. And that is an opportunity where the employer pays a third of childcare costs for employees. The state pays a third, and then the employee pays a third. And knowing how expensive good childcare is and how important that is to be able to come to work and know that you can send your children to a place that they're going to learn and be cared for, and that it's not going to take a whole paycheck or a whole month's of paychecks to pay for that. That, to me, is one of the things that signals we care about our employees. Yeah. We have a lot of great benefits here. We have the tuition reimbursement for people who want to continue on their education. But then we also have the tuition benefit for employees and for their dependents. And so these types of things, when I came here and I learned about some of the benefits that our employees have, those are things I want to really celebrate and learn more about what makes for a great place to work, and then continue to celebrate that and to focus on that. So that's part, in addition to all those things that I talked about, we're focused on students and making sure that we have strong pathways and strong outcomes. I also want to make sure that our employees feel cared for, because, and I've said this in different spaces, when our employees feel cared for, our students feel cared for.
And one through line that I'm kind of seeing is that, because even though we're a mid-sized city, it feels small in some ways, and word of mouth is so important. And so students being successful, they may have brothers and sisters that see them become successful here. And then employees that enjoy being here are going to tell their friends, oh, I enjoy working at GRCC. So I just think of West Michigan as word of mouth is so important in this community.
Yeah, I didn't think about that as being it does.
I'm in communication, so my brain automatically goes that direction.
Yeah. Because, and I've said this before, everyone, just about everyone that I talk to, whether it's on an Uber ride, I have good news. This weekend, I brought my horse to Michigan. So I'm really excited about that. And when I went to the barn and I was talking to the owner and she was asking what brought me to Michigan, and I told her it was GRCC. She said, oh, I went to CC. And, everywhere I go, people mention, their connection and so when they have those positive experiences and hear from people who work here and who go here, it does create that story.
What's one thing you've learned from this community that has already changed how you're thinking about the work ahead?
Grand Rapids and West Michigan, it's just such an interesting, it's an interesting community. The college itself, there's so many people around us and internally that are extremely invested, which makes it easier to do the work ahead. And so I think that the focus is really going to be on how do we make sure that there's a message that everyone can be a part of, and how do we help bring people together around that message and around that vision to help us. Because what needs to happen is that it needs to be a community effort. It needs to be a whole college effort. It can't be something that just one department or one division does. So my plan is really, as I start to continue to listen and continue to put together and align the information and work with our college leadership and faculty and define that vision, is to make sure that it's shared broadly, so that the work that we're doing is not work we're doing alone as a college, but we're doing it with our communities. It's for our communities, but we have to do it with our communities. So intentionally bringing communities in, working with the college to accomplish the goals that will lead to the better communities that we all want for West Michigan.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add before we're done for the day?
I think just I'm still having fun. It's a great place. I came back. I got to go to Mackinac Island last week.
Did you ride a bike?
No, I didn't, but I did go on a horse and carriage.
Okay, so, I should have asked that first.
I wanted my own horse. So I was at the Detroit Policy Conference.
Okay, at the Grand Hotel?
Yes, at the Grand Hotel, which was amazing. I didn't stay on the island. I stayed off the island and then did the ferry there every day. First of all, the island was beautiful. I had never been. So part of Michigan that I hadn't seen before, but getting to talk with a lot of people statewide about the work that GRCC is doing and the support we have statewide from various organizations and legislators. It was a great opportunity to not only talk about what GRCC needs, but also to hear about the work that's being done to support our work here.